I've done a couple of videos talking about the new Say-Mak power hammer. I did one just to introduce it and explain how it works. Then I did a video where I made a poker out of a piece of 1-inch square bar just to try out the hammer. There have been lots of questions, suggestions, ideas, things people just want to know about with the hammer. So today I thought I would try to answer some of those questions and make a little of it more clear. But keep in mind, I'm still learning this hammer. The things I'm doing today may be a little bit different a week from now, a month from now, and certainly a year from now. I will learn a lot and I will develop some different skills, different techniques, and have different preferences for the way I use the hammer. But for today, I think I'll answer the questions based on what I know right now. Probably the number one question is, do you love it? Yes, I do. This is a great piece of equipment. A lot of people say, what a great toy. And no, I don't think of this as a toy. Now, I understand the tendency in the modern world where you work in an office all day and you get to go home and use tools as a recreational outlet, that's sort of like what you do with your toys. But for me, these are the things that help me make a living. It helps me stay productive. And while I find it enjoyable and somewhat recreational because this is what I choose to do in my retirement, I still don't think of my tools as toys. They're hardworking tools, hardworking equipment, and I think that puts them in a little bit different class, at least in my mind. There have been quite a few comments about the orders just flying out the door since I got the new hammer, and that isn't too far from off. I have completed a lot of the simpler projects that really lend themselves to the hammer. I've jumped ahead a little bit on my to-do list instead of doing all of the very next things that are a little bit more intricate, more involved. Again, to get to know the hammer and to become more proficient with it. And I have cut my list by about half in the week that I've had this. The rest of the list won't go that fast, but yes, this has made a big difference in productivity in just 1 week. There have been quite a few comments about the height of the dies, and is this a comfortable place to work? You got your foot up here, and you do bend down a little bit just to kind of see what you're doing, but it's really about the same as any other hammer. These dies are actually the same height as the ones under the bull hammer were, which is about 35 inches off the floor. That's a few inches taller than the Little Giant is. So it's a pretty common die height for a power hammer. I'm not sure if there's an ideal. If I was a shorter person, of course, this hammer would have a little bit taller effective die height. And if you want to make your own base for the hammer, that is certainly something you can do. But I'm already used to working with dies at this height, and this just doesn't really bother me any. The other question that goes along with that is the treadle height. And this is a little bit high. It's certainly higher than the bull hammer was. It's a little higher than the Little Giant is. But it's not that high compared to most other self-contained air hammers. The way the valving's set up, the treadle has quite a bit of travel. And with the valves fully opened, this is touching the base. So that's all the travel there is. So I can't really lower the linkage. You just have to get used to working it this way. And it's not as bad as it may seem. You feel like you're standing on one foot and balancing, but as soon as you put your foot on the treadle, even if you're not pushing, that really helps with your balance. It's not so bad, and it's good for your other leg. You know, it's sort of like doing yoga. Plus, depending on where you work under the hammer, you might be operating it with your right foot, you might be operating it with your left foot. I do both depending on where I am. I work a full 180 degrees around the hammer depending on what I'm doing. Most of it is straight on, and I stand on my right leg and I operate the hammer with my left, but it's not always that way. There have been several suggestions to put a foot rail in to rest my heel on so I can operate the hammer with my toes. That really is a very good idea. I've seen that in a lot of other people's shops. It works really well. It's a nice addition, but there's a problem in my shop, and that is that between the horn of the anvil and the front of the treadle is only about 25, 26 inches. And that means that that's already a narrow walkway, and putting a foot rail out here another 6 or 8 inches to set my heel on would make it smaller, and that would be a trip hazard. And I think I'd rather develop the skills and the strength to stand on one foot more often than to have a trip hazard, because tripping in the blacksmith shop can be very disastrous. One option for that is just using a wooden block or a piece of steel tubing, and this does the same thing. And if you trip over this, you'll probably kick it out of the way and not fall, but you can also get it out of the way when you're not working with the hammer, and then it isn't a trip hazard. So that's probably what I will do. Another option is to put your foot clear up here on the base of the anvil and operate the hammer with your heel. And that works pretty well, except for this foot guard that's there to keep stuff, if you drop a tool or something, it won't hit your foot. Even though this foot guard comes standard on the hammer, I have not seen another one in operation that still has the foot guard on it, and that may be one reason why. The other reason answers another question people have had, which is, why does it ring? Why does it chime so much? And that is this foot guard. It shakes and it vibrates, and it's a little annoying, although I wear hearing protection when I'm working under the hammer, and it bothers you guys on video way more than it's ever going to bother me. So while I hate taking any safety feature off or disabling it, it's not something that you commonly find on a power hammer. It's not completely vital, and the hammer would be easier to use and more pleasant to be around without it. So I may take it off, I may not. I haven't decided yet. I'm not going to be in a hurry to make that decision either. Of course, I would never recommend that you disable any safety feature on any piece of equipment you own. Now, people have asked about the side-to-side retention on the dies, and I think I addressed that already. There is a slot and a bolt that sticks up into that slot, so even if a die key falls out of the bottom die, or the sow block, this bottom die can't slide sideways. If a die key comes out of the top dovetail, the die could fall straight out, but if it just gets loose, these dies won't slide side to side. That's generally not a problem. It's not something that's ever been a big problem. People being concerned about that really stems from a single video where Tom Clark had a sow block come loose, and that was this key, not the die key, that came loose and the sow block slid off, and that was a hammer that was not ready to send to a customer. He was getting that hammer set up. When it went out to the customer, I am sure it would not have done that anymore. So it's not something that's a big issue. Hammers have used die keys like this since there have been power hammers. They work very well. They're easy to change dies. They're easy to adjust dies. I wouldn't worry about them too much. Just make sure they're tight. Some other folks seem overly concerned about the length of the die keys. It's really not a problem. If you cut them off and you get another set of dies that aren't quite exactly the same size, your key may not fit anymore, so that becomes a problem. Typically, they are not in the front like this. Typically, they are in the back. It's just this set of dies, to be oriented the way I want them, they're turned around essentially 180 degrees from what they were originally machined, or actually they're upside down. This was originally machined to be a top die, and I have reversed the position so that I can have this notch in the bottom instead of in the top. And that's just because of a bit of confusion at the manufacturer, that they made half of the dies top dies and half of them bottom dies, when they should have all been bottom dies with a different style of top die. We'll look at that feature some other time though. Well, I hope that answers most of the questions people have had, or addresses the comments or concerns that most of the people have had. I'm sure there will be other questions, and I will try to address those down in the comments section. That's the best place to do that, is individually, but my internet has been down for a few days and will probably be down till early next week. So I don't really have the time to answer all the comments individually right now. I'm going to have to find some place to go to town to upload this video and the other 2 videos that I've done in the last few days. Otherwise, nothing will get uploaded for almost a whole week, and I don't want to go that long without uploading a video. So I'll edit these at home. I'll go somewhere else to upload them, and I probably won't spend enough time to answer all the comments, because sometimes that takes a few hours a day answering comments. So if I don't answer your comment personally, it isn't anything personal. It's just because my internet is down, because we're doing some work around here and had to cut through the phone lines because the phone lines were right in the way. And the phone company's going to replace those, and we might actually get better internet service when it's all over. Yeah, probably not. Anyways, I hope this answered your question. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Love it if you hit that subscribe button. Make time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, but stay safe. do wear your safety glasses. And as always, we will see you for the next one.